welcome to Growing Bright Futures. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Tree 11, which is a retreat and learning program on a sheep farm here in Addison County. And our special interest is in social justice issues, and especially those that affect families with young children. So I'm really delighted to have today as our guest Diane Hermann-Artim, who is the education director for CCV. So even though she takes care of the whole state, she works mostly here in Middlebury. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thanks
Diane.
for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled. I'm just thinking, wow, you do so much. It's hard to know where to get started. And maybe you could actually start by telling us how you came to be in the position you're in. Okay.
Well, I started working for CCV a long time ago as an instructor.
Oh.
So when we came to Middlebury, we had 2 small children, and I was looking for part-time work, and so I started working at CCV as an instructor while my daughter was at Corey Hill and my son was embarking off into kindergarten. I was a science instructor, actually.
Oh, so you know the early childhood community
a little, only
here.
from like the parents'
yeah?
side. So I have a background in science, actually. So I've come long into the early childhood world in a very circuitous path, but I'm enjoying the journey for sure.
Cool.
So I started as an instructor and did that for quite a while, and then I became an advisor at CCV, and I was the Middlebury advisor for many years. And then about 7 years ago, I became an associate academic dean at CCV, and one of the areas that I oversee is early childhood education. So that's kind of how I came into this pathway.
Interesting. So I sort of got to know you through the Higher Ed Early Childhood Consortium and the way that the different colleges and universities work together. And now you're the co-director of that.
Exactly,
and I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what that's.
That group. And
Yeah,
you
what
started
you do?
the group, right? Or you were a facilitator. So that is a group, it's an actually really interesting group of folks that come together to talk about early childhood, but specifically early childhood and higher ed. So all of the colleges in Vermont right now that have an early childhood program have representation on that group. And then we have a lot of stakeholder groups that are part of the consortium as well. So we have people from the Child Development Division, we have people from Head Start, from Children's Integrated Services, Agency of Education, and then we also have some folks representing philanthropy. And it's really a chance for people in higher ed to learn what's going on in our early childhood systems and how can we in higher ed know how to help moving any initiatives forward. So it's also great for us in higher ed too, because we're all in the business of serving students, bringing in more students into our institutions, but we want to know where there is a need. And one of the great things about this group is we also work collaboratively. So we'll think about if there's a particular course that we need in Vermont, but perhaps there are only 20 students who need it statewide. How do we work together to make sure we're not competing for the same students, and we can offer the course in a way that meets our economic bottom line, but also serves the state.
And it seems like that's really working. When I first started 5 years ago, it seemed like a lot of institutions were dropping their early childhood programs, were dropping their licensure programs.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see programs come back online. And
Right, NVU added an early childhood program online, and part of that was out of the work of this group, really identifying, especially for students that we serve at CCV who are non-traditional students, and many students in early childhood higher ed programs right now are people who are already working in the field. So to have a program that students could go from their associate's degree to their bachelor's degree and still be working in the field was essential. And so they were able to develop an online program that really served that population. But Castleton now has a brand new program that they're starting as well. And I would say many of our schools in Vermont have sort of non-traditional programs that serve our higher ed, early ed students, and then UVM and Champlain also have programs that are more traditional for students, but are really working with both populations.
But I love your background as an advisor, because it seems like it's been a struggle for people working in the field. Maybe they could do the child care apprenticeship program, which I think CCV also overseas, but then they would get as far as an associate's degree and be stuck.
Absolutely. When I started as an advisor at CCV, it was almost heartbreaking. Like we would have students who would graduate in their early ed degree, and there was really no options for them. After they graduated, many of them would do a liberal studies degree or a professional studies degree, and then they would do portfolio review in order to get licensure. There really weren't that many options, and that is not the case anymore. It has really changed since I started as an advisor.
I'm guessing that you helped to drive some of that change too.
Absolutely. I can't say that I helped implement that program at all. That really did come from NVU and their leadership. But we absolutely provided them with data. So these are the number of graduates we have at CCV. The majority of our students at CCV in our early ed program are part-time students. Most of them are already working in the field instead of aspiring to get into the field. So we knew that we had that population of students from our institution, and so they were able to work with their boards and their academic councils and to say there is a need, and we know there's students in the pipeline ready to come.
And I feel like you also really worked on the articulation agreements between these different institutions so that students could take courses with them.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have articulation agreements with almost every school now in Vermont that has an early ed program. We're waiting for Castleton, but that's because their program is brand new, and so they're ready to get, they need to get their licensure approved and different things happening before they're ready to talk about articulation agreements. But we have articulation agreements with most of the other schools in Vermont, which is very exciting for our students. Because it used to be, too, when I started, when we would talk to other bachelor degree student programs, they would say, well, your students should do general education courses, and then when they come to our institution, that's where they'll take all their early education courses. And we would say, but so many of our students are already in the field. They really need to be taking those courses that are specific to the work they're doing day to day, and not wait and work on that, their general education requirements first, and then take their early ed degree. So this is nice. They can be doing early ed courses with us and taking general education courses, but they can take that all with them to their bachelor's degree school.
And isn't it also, did CCV start the portfolio, not the portfolio review for licensure, but I thought that there are many pathways now for students to get credit for experience and learning that they've had in the past.
So absolutely. So our Office of Professional Prior Learning Assessment, that's the word I'm looking for, is actually a Vermont State Colleges division. I don't know if it's a division, but it's a part of the Vermont State Colleges, and they're kind of housed within CCV, and many of the coursework that goes along with that is through CCV. So you're right, there are many options for people to get college credit for life experience, and it ranges from people can come and ask for credit for a single course, and that process is called Course Challenge, or people can do standardized
So they would,
tests.
Course Challenge, they would look at a course in your catalog and say, I think I've done this kind of work.
Right.
Okay.
So that exactly.
Got it.
And then we have 2 portfolio courses. One is for people who are familiar with the program, they're most familiar with Assessment of Prior Learning, which is a 3-credit course. It runs the entire semester, and in that course, people learn how to create a portfolio that demonstrates all of their learning. So they have to figure out, well, what are those learning objectives? What did I learn that's equivalent to college level learning? And then they have to have people document that learning. It's one thing to say that you have it. It's
Right.
for people to say, yes, this person worked for me. I'm aware that she has these skills, and here's how I know. So they have to write letters supporting that documentation. And then that portfolio goes to a review committee. The review committee looks at, here's what the student's asking for, here's what her documentation verifies, and yes, the student has the equivalent to X number of credits. And so for that process, there's no cap on the number of credits that a student can earn. It can be a really affordable way to get a lot of college credits for life experience. And again, in our early childhood field, there are a lot of people who have been in the field for a long time that can be earning prior learning assessment credit.
Do you know offhand if they can translate some of those portfolio documentations into applying for a license later? Is it this? Any of that
I
similar?
don't know that it goes right into their portfolio for licensure. But whether or not those credits count for licensure, I would have to look into that.
Yeah,
My hunch is yes, but I don't know that for sure. It's a good question. They can absolutely use it for licensing. So if they're trying to prove they have college credits for licensing because they're in a regulated program and the role that they have, they can use it for that.
Got it.
Yep.
So they can.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of another major project that you took on maybe 3 years ago, the Northern Lights.
Right.
Can you
Yep,
tell us
yep.
about that some?
Right, so Northern Lights at CCV is sort of a subset of CCV. We work together. They are part of CCV. And Northern Lights is in charge of the professional development for early childhood professionals in Vermont, or at least they support a lot of the professional development in Vermont. So we have a grant from the Child Development Division of the Agency of Human Services. For that work, we now have a team of 10 people who are working under Northern Lights, and we have a range of responsibilities there. So we have 5 resource advisors spread out throughout Vermont. So Rose Morrison oversees the work that happens in Middlebury, but she also oversees work in Rutland and Bennington. And our resource advisors are really the go-to person if people have questions about professional development or career advancement in early childhood education. So they can help people figure out, where is the best training for me? Where am I on the career ladder in Vermont? They can help people navigate college courses. Like, they could definitely help them with CCV or pass them on to a CCV advisor, but they also know about college programs at other institutions. It's not just CCV.
Can they also help them figure out sort of how do you make a financial pathway?
Yeah, but they have it, they're very good about, here are the many options that you have for financial aid. So, there are Pell and state resources here, and then the Child Development Division has resources, and then there's a TEAT scholarship. And, so there are a lot of options for people who are interested in higher education and early childhood education. And then the other things that Northern Lights does is there is a registry in Vermont where everyone who works in early childhood has to input their documentation, so the state can keep track of how much training they've had every year and over a lifetime. And so we have a registry team that inputs all of that information into the state registry system, and the resource advisors can also help people navigate that, so they can help them figure out how to submit information, how to check their accounts to make sure their information is there, all of those pieces. And then we have Becky Millard is the director of the whole Northern Lights system, and she is really doing community outreach, working with all the systems in Vermont to make sure that the professional development we offer through Northern Lights sort of meshes with professional development that's being offered in other places. So that was the other piece I didn't say, is we also offer some trainings through Northern Lights. We don't do all of the professional development in Vermont for early childhood, but we do some for sure.
So you do some of the ones that sort of repeat on like
so
strengthening families or things like that?
Exactly. So we do some that are mandated by the state that everyone should do, like fundamentals of early childhood, basic specialized care, medication administration, those sorts of things. And then beyond that, there's some trainings that hopefully are helpful for people in all levels on a career pathway. So we're doing one on trauma-informed practice and culturally informed practice, different pieces like that. So hopefully we're able to offer trainings that work for people on a statewide basis, but also people on multiple levels on their career pathway.
So what are you seeing in terms of, it used to be that people would sit in a classroom and then the world started changing.
Right.
Are most of your students online students now, or how does CCV, what's the balance here?
Right, that's a great question. So at CCV, and maybe I should stop there and say, at CCV we're offering college level credit bearing courses, and Northern Lights at CCV tends to focus on non-credit training.
So professional development
Professional
trainings.
development, yep. So we, and they both interlock and we work together for sure, but that's kind of the distinction. So at CCV, we absolutely offer courses online. And right now, about half of the courses we offer in early childhood in Vermont, at CCV in Vermont, are offered in our online format. When I first started as an advisor at CCV, I would say online was not popular with early childhood professionals, but that has changed. Like the world of technology has changed a lot since I've been working in this field. So we offer courses both in a traditional format, so a course will run for 15 weeks for a whole semester, and then we also have a lot of accelerated courses as well that will run for 7 weeks.
7 weeks, wow.
And they're very popular with our early childhood folks. And then we also offer courses on the ground, so we are running curriculum development right here at our Middlebury campus this spring, and we tend to run an early childhood class, at least one, in each of our on-ground centers, and we're running a couple in Winooski every semester. Yep.
Can you tell us about your physical center here in Middlebury?
Sure.
And also, is it rolling admissions? What do people have to do to apply to CCV?
So we are located right in Battelle Block. We have a bird's eye view of the bridge project right now. We have a newly renovated space. I think it's been renovated for just in the past 2 years, so it's really lovely up there. We have 3 classrooms, multiple office spaces, so some folks like me have a statewide reach, but we also have a coordinator of student services, Jennifer Stefani, who really works with students one-on-one to help them through the process. So when students want to apply to CCV, we have an online application. It's very quick and simple. You can fulfill the whole thing in about 10 minutes for sure.
Wow.
And then what we ask, if people are new to college, that they make a new student appointment and they come in, they meet with Jennifer, she takes them through, these are all the steps for your application to move forward. Have you taken college courses before? Are you brand new to college? Here are the resources we can offer. Here's how we can help you think about the best place to start. So she will walk people through that whole process.
That's great.
And then Middlebury offers probably about 12 courses a semester. I'm probably getting that wrong. But
here in
about
Middlebury.
200 students here in Middlebury.
Wow.
And students can take courses in our CCV center in Middlebury, but they can also travel to both Winooski or Rutland if they would rather. Those are bigger centers, so they have a little more variety up there, especially in Winooski. But many of our Middlebury students also take courses online. So between Middlebury, Winooski, Rutland, and online, there's quite a variety of courses that students can take from Middlebury.
And can you tell us some about I think they're called 2+2 programs, like students from Hannaford who are taking the licensed nursing assistant program can get, I don't.
Okay, yeah, now I'm trying to put those together. So 2+2, maybe we have a couple 2+2+2 things happening.
Okay.
Which is why I'm looking at you like I'm confused. So we have 2+2 agreements, which are pathway agreements for students coming in. So let's say I'm coming from high school. I know I want to transfer into the criminal justice program at Castleton. I know that I can start at CCV. I can do the behavioral science degree program at CCV, finish in 2 years, and then do 2 more years at Castleton. And what's really nice about that is we help students sort of map that out, so there's no extra courses. They will do 60 credits at CCV, they'll do 60 credits at Castleton, and it's just a very streamlined process. So those we call often our 2+2 agreements. Yep. And then in Northern Lights, we have something called a 2+2+2. And again, remember that's our non-credit training. And in that case, students come in for 2 hours of professional development. They have 2 hours that they do at home, then reflect about what they've learned, and then they come back and do 2 more hours of professional development, which is nice for professional development because it gives people a little bit of time to implement and reflect, and then come back and talk about it. So that's a model that we're doing through Northern Lights with 2s in it.
Okay. Diane, we're going to run out of time. So we've got, and I'm worried that I see your beautiful posters back here. Are there things that I should have asked you about that you want to talk about?
Gosh, now you're going to put me on the spot. I'm trying to think. Let me stuck for words.
You can even talk about this is your early childhood world, but you also you're the academic dean for education, right? So that's
Right, I'm
a
an
lot bigger, right?
Associate Academic Dean. Yep,
Associate
so the
Academic Dean.
programs that I oversee now are really early ed and behavioral science.
Behavioral
but
science.
CCV has a range of degree
Yeah.
programs ranging from STEM and liberal studies and all of those pieces. So,
And with
right,
your
yeah.
science background, are you
Right
drawn
now,
to be
you know,
more
it's
active
funny,
with
yeah,
the STEM?
no,
or-
now more I'm really focusing on early ed. About 85% of my time now is with Northern Lights, which is exciting for me. So
Cool.
it's good.
So do you have dreams for this field, either here in Middlebury, Addison County, or in the state, things that you wish were happening that
I
we
think
could
there's
work towards?
so much happening in early childhood right now. There are national initiatives and state initiatives really looking at how do we professionalize this field. And my biggest dream is that we would start to compensate the people who are doing this amazing,
Yeah.
important work, so that they're earning a livable wage, because they really are serving our communities, and they're serving all the other people who work in our communities. And that my dream is that we would be able to compensate them for what they're doing.
Good,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah.
I hope the work that we're all doing together
Right.
is
And
going to...
compensation and recognition.
And
like,
recognition.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great. Well, thank you so
Sure.
much for taking the time. For those of you that are watching, Diane's contact information is going to come up in a minute, and you should feel free. This is right.
Absolutely.
Get in touch with
Absolutely.
her. Get in touch
with
with
me.
Jen Stefani at the
Right.
CCV
Absolutely.
at the
Jen would
Middlebury
be happy
Center.
to help you navigate the CCV
Right.
system for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I also just want to encourage anybody, if you work for a nonprofit and you have a message that you'd like to get out, work with the people here at Community Television. They are amazing, and they'll help you. You don't have to know how to push a button even. Thanks for watching.